My name is Mark Irwin, and I teach in the PhD in Creative Writing and Literature program. And it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the 2014 Magill Reading, a reading that we have each year in honor of Dr. Frank Magill, which also honors his great commitment and passion for poetry. Some of you may also remember Jim Magill, who was the head of the Salem Press, and another venue which illustrates his passion for poetry too. I want to thank all of you for coming out, and especially Yusef Komunyakaa, a poet that I've admired for 3 centuries, for 3 decades. He wishes it was 3 centuries, or maybe not. For coming to Los Angeles with his busy schedule. I also want to thank the philosophy department for lending us this historic and resplendent room. And as I'm standing here, I'm suddenly remembering that it was Aristotle who said in his rhetoric that both philosophy and poetry begin in wonder. This year, I've asked one of our outstanding graduate student poets who studied with Yusef Komunyakaa to introduce him. And I want to mention also that all of our graduate poets are equally outstanding. That's why it's so exciting and difficult for us to choose them. Robin Costa-Lewis is a Provost Fellow in English and Visual Studies at USC, a Cave Canem Fellow. She received her MFA from New York University's Creative Writing program, where she was a Goldwater Fellow in Poetry. She holds a Master's of Theological Studies degree in Sanskrit and Comparative Religious Literature from Harvard's Divinity School. And she has been a finalist for the International War Poetry Prize, the National Rita Dove Prize, and a semifinalist for the Discovery Boston Review Prize. At New York University, she worked with Sharon Olds on a collection regarding the history of the Black female figure in Western art, a project that continues here at the University of Southern California. And her thesis, which Yusef Komunyakaa chaired, was a meditation on the life of African-American explorer Matthew Henson in his co-discovery of the North Pole with Commander Peary, a fascinating project in which the Arctic becomes an allegory for safety and an interrogation of empire. Please welcome Robin Costa-Lewis.
Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Oh, good. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you all for coming. Yusef, I'm so happy to see you on this coast. I'm just going to start. I still can remember the exact moment, the exact city, building, the street, and the gray winter light hovering in the room in which I stood one afternoon decades ago, the first time I ever read a poem by Yusef Komunyakaa. I remember having to sit down and needing to read the poem several times more. What I remember most of all about this day is that my body understood, years before my mind would catch up, that in that moment the world as I knew it had changed. The poem was his iconic Venus's Flytrap, and I mean it truly when I say that after I read this poem, not only had the world changed, but I too was completely new. What a revelation it was to find the sublime in, of all places, Bogalusa, Louisiana, up a long country road, napping on a porch with dragonflies humming about her invisible head. Hymns, riffs, myths, dirges, scats, librettos. Komunyaka's poems are constructed with the meticulous lyricism that exemplifies tremendous breadth. He can attend to the private, psychic atrocities of war, as well as perform the dexterous feat of braiding jazz aesthetics within a classical trope. All of this occurring sometimes in the same poem. Listen for a moment to the opening lines of You and I Are Disappearing, a poem about serving in Vietnam from his collection Den Kay Dao. The cry I bring down from the hills belongs to a sad girl still burning inside my head. At daybreak, she burns like a piece of paper. She burns like foxfire in a thigh-shaped valley. A skirt of flames dances around her at dusk. We stand with our hands hanging at our sides while she burns like a sack of ice. As you can hear, silence is also a language Komunyakaa speaks fluently. What he does not say, and how and when he does not say it, is as historically and metrically complex as a sonic play in which he luxuriates. His poems reinvent English, and they relieve English. Another means by which he accomplishes this is through keen engagement with the pastoral. Flora and fauna participate, observe, and contribute to the theater of our post-colonial lives. Here, for example, are the closing lines of one of my favorite poems of his, Ode to the Maggot. Ontological and lustrous, you cast spells on beggars and kings behind the stone door of Caesar's tomb or splint trench in a field of ragweed. No decree or creed can outlaw you as you take every living thing apart. Little master of earth, no one gets to heaven without going through you first. Komunyaka's poems are as vivid and mysterious as a photograph you find resting on the sidewalk while out for a stroll one night. You pick up the picture and there you encounter your own face, sitting placidly inside the frame in another country, in another century. You are the victim, you are the murderer, the young child, the anxious girl, or perhaps you are simply a field of quivering yellow flowers. Born in 1947 in Louisiana, yay, Louisiana. My family's from there. Yusef Komunyakaa served in the United States Army from 1969 to 1970. He was a correspondent and managing editor of the Southern Cross during the Vietnam War, earning him a Bronze Star. He holds a BA from the University of Colorado Springs, an MA from Colorado State University, and his MFA is from the UC Irvine. When one of his earliest collections, Copacetic, was published, there's no lovelier way to put it, the literary community went crazy. He is the author of 13 award-winning collections, such as I Apologize for the Eyes in My Head, which won the San Francisco Poetry Center Award, Den Kay Dao, winner of the Darkroom Poetry Prize, Neon Vernacular won both the Pulitzer and the Kingsley Tufts Poetry Award, Thieves of Paradise was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award, followed by several more collections, including other speech stealers such as Magic City and War Horses. His latest collection, Chameleon Couch, was a finalist for the National Book Award and the Griffin Poetry Prize. Komunyakaa also has worked tirelessly as an editor over the years. His most recent editorial work, published just last year, is the breathtaking volume of another iconic poet titled The Collected Poems of I. Komunyakaa also served, of course, as a chancellor of the Academy of American Poets. In addition to all this, Komunyakaa is a much beloved teacher. He has taught at many universities. Most recently, he was the professor in the Council of Humanities and Creative Writing program at Princeton University, and he is currently the distinguished senior poet in New York University's graduate creative writing program. The Washington Post says he is a national cultural treasure. The same critic says that His poems contain the private gaze and the civic drum, purifying language, purifying history. Another critic says that his poems sizzle with intelligence and they are near revelatory. But still, his work by no means seeks to transcend time, but rather to enter time. The self is the mirror he holds to reflect upon the autobiography of the historical moment. And yet, with all his accomplishments, he remains close to the ground. In his poem, The Unnatural State of the Unicorn, the narrator reminds us, "Introduce me first as a man. Don't mention superficial laurels the dead heap up on the living. I am a man. Cut me and I bleed. Before embossed limited editions, before fat artichoke hearts marinated in rich sauce and served with imported wines, before antics and Agnus Dei, before the stars in your eyes mean birth sign or impression, I am a man. I've scuffled in mud holes, broken teeth in a grinning skull like the moon behind bars. I've done it all to be known to myself. No titles. I have principles. I won't speak on the natural state of the unicorn in literature or self-analysis. I have no birthright to prove, no insignia, no secret, password, no fleur-de-lis. My initials aren't on a branding iron. I'm standing here in unpolished shoes and faded jeans, sweating my manly sweat. Inside my skin, loving you. I am the space my body believes in. I'm overjoyed to be here. Professor Komunyakaa, we are honored to host you. Please help me in welcoming Yusef Komunyakaa.
I'm still trying to get situated here. Thanks for such a wonderful introduction. Okay, I'm going to begin with quite a long poem. Requiem. So, when the strong unholy high winds whiplash over the soul of marshlands, eaten back to a sigh of salt water, the crescent city was already stripped down to her pylons. Her floating ribs, her spleen and backbone, left trembling in old world facades and postmodern lethargy, lost to waterlogged memories and quick claim deeds, exposed for all eyes, damnable gaze, plumb-lined and heart-throb ballast and water tabor, already the last ghost song of the Choctaw and the Chippewa, long gone, no more than a drunken curse among the oak and sweet gum leaves, a tally, a broken treatise, and absences, echoing cries of birds over the barrier islands, inherited by the remittance man, scallywag and King Cotton, and already the sky was falling in on itself, calling like a cloud of seagulls gone ravenous as the Gulf, reclaiming its ebb and flow chart, while the wind banged on shutters and unhinged doors from their frames and unshangled the low-ridged roofs, while the believers hum Precious Lord in Deep River, as the horsehair plastered walls gallop along with the surge. Already folklore began to rise up from the buried Ladigag and sluice, pulsing beneath the Big Easy, rolling between and through itself, caught in some downward tug and turn, like a world of love affairs backed up in a stalled inlet, a knelt-down army of cypress, a testament to how men dreamt land out of order, where bedrock was only the heart's bumping grind, its deep dark churn and acceleration blows it down to those old unmoored timbers, already nothing but water mumbling as the great eye lingered on a question, then turned. The gauzy genitalia of Bacchus and Zulu left dangling from magnolias and rain trees already. So I'm sort of going to attempt to move across sort of an individualized landscape. When eyes aren't on me, I'm a scrappy old lad who's wandered into a Christian square, quavering with centuries of forged bells. The cobblestones make my feet ache. I walk big-shouldered, my head raised proudly. I smell the blood of a king. The citizens can only see a minotaur in a maze. I know more than the lion should know. My roar goes back to the Serengeti, to when a savanna was craggy ice, but now I'm tightening lashes. I know how it is. I know how frightened only pigeons from a city stoop. They believe they know my brain's contours and grammar. I know what it took to master the serpent and will, the crossbow and spinal tap. Once I was a leopard beside a stone gate. I'm a riddle to be unraveled. I am not and I am. When their eyes are on me, I become whatever is judged badly. I circle the park. Hunger shapes my keen sense of smell, a lifetime ahead. They will follow my paw prints till they're lost in snowy dust. If I walk in circles or hide from my shadow, they plot stars to know where to find me. I am a prodigal bird perched on the peak of a guardhouse. I have a message for fate. The sunlight has shown me the guns, and their beautiful sons are deadly. Memory of the murdered professors at the Agilonian. They fired a bullet into the head of each question, trying to kill Kant's unending argument with Hegel. Vain, burned laws, moral codes, and the golden mean. Anyone serving tea and cookies to death, looking or acting as if he knew love, stood before the firing squad. All questions had to go, pronoun or noun. If it crawled on busted kneecaps, whimpering and begging for mercy, it was still half of a question. The little skyscraper of glass boxes. Sunlight strikes the same time of day at a certain angle outside Zakopane. Looks like condos where nimble ghosts still stand up to the darkest answers. No, I can't hear one voice pleading, but I do hear a gust coming down from the hills. No, you are wrong again. The crow perched on the totem is real. Look at how the light lifts off its wings. But I wish I could understand what it is he's trying to say. I think I heard a name. I was thinking about just being in this building. It's a beautiful building, isn't it? Nighttime begins with a line by Pablo Neruda. So my body went on growing by night, went on pleading and singing to the earth I was born to be woven back into. Love, let me see if I can't sink my roots deeper into you. Your minerals and water, your leaf rot and gold, your telling and untelling of the oldest tales inscribed on wind-carved rocks, soaked in grass, your songs and prayers, your oaths and myths, your nights and days in one unending lament, your luminous swarm of wet kisses and stains, your spleen and mind, your outrageous forgetting and remembrance, your ghosts and rebirths, your thunderstones and mushrooms, and your kind loss of memory. Sort of switching gears just a little bit. I think it was 1991. I was teaching at Stanford for a quarter, and I said I wouldn't write about Vietnam anymore. But I found myself writing this poem. This poem is sort of dedicated to the 14 or 15 young black men who threw themselves on grenades. And I'm trying to still understand that impulse underneath things. Grenade. There's no rehearsal to turn flesh into dust so quickly. A hair trigger, a cocked hammer in the brain, a split second between man and infamy. It lands on the ground. A few soldiers duck, and the others are caught and a half run, and one throws himself down on the grenade. All the watches stop. A flash, smoke, silence. The sound fills the whole day. Flesh and earth fall into the eyes and mouths of the men. A dream trapped in midair. They touch their legs and arms, their groins, ears and noses, saying, "What happened?" Some are crying, others are laughing, some are almost dancing. Someone tries to put the dead man back together. He just dove on the damn thing, sir. A flash, smoke, silence, the day blown apart. For those who can walk away, what is their burden? Shreds of flesh and bloody rags gathered up and stuffed into a bag. Each breath belongs to him, each song, each curse, every prayer is his. Your body doesn't belong to your mind and soul. Who are you? Do you remember the man left in the jungle? The others who owe their lives to this phantom, do they feel like you? Would his loved ones remember him if that little park or statue erected in his name didn't exist? And does it enlarge their lives? You wish he'd lie down in that closed coffin and not wander the streets or enter your bedroom at midnight. The woman you love should never understand. Who would? You remember what he used to say, if you give a kite too much string, it'll break free, that unselfish certainty, but you can't remember when you began to live his unspoken dreams. I'm going to read a few of the poems from a long series of poems entitled Love in the Time of War. These are sort of quasi-sonnets. Here the old masters of shock and awe huddle in the war room, talking iron, fire and sand, alloy, and nomenclature. Their hearts lag against the bowstring as they daydream of Odysseus' bed, but to shoot an arrow through the bullseye of 12 axes lined up in a row is to sleep with one's eyes open. Yes, of course, there stands lovely Penelope like a trophy still, holding the brass key against her breast. How did the even star fold into that room? Lost between plot and lute, the plucked string turns into a lyre, humming praises and curses to the unborn. They swarmed down over the town and left bodies floating in the ditches and moats, bloated with silence, blue with flies on the rooftop. They gave the children candy made of honey and nuts, scented with belladonna to weed out the weak. Bundles of soap rolled out like a rainbow for the women. On the wild, forgetful straw beds, they created a race, a new tongue to sing Occidental prayers and regrets. Their camphor lanterns mastered darkness. All the taboos of lovemaking were broken. Soon, laughter rose again from the hills. When our hands caress bullets and grenades or linger on the turrets and luminous wings of reconnaissance planes, we leave glimpses of ourselves on the polished hardness. We surrender scanned hair, sweat, and fingerprints. The assembly lines hum to our touch, and the grinding wheels record our laments and laughter into the bright metal. I touch your face, your breast, the flower holding the world in focus. We give ourselves to each other, letting the workday slide away. Afterwards, lying there, facing the sky, I touch the crescent-shaped war wound. Yes, the oldest prayer is still in my fingertips. I like the idea of trying to surprise myself, but we'll see. Do like Land Sutra for the performance poets at Harold Park Hotel. The need gotta be so deep, words can't answer simple questions all night long. Notes stumble off the tongue and color the air indigo. So deep, fragments of gut and flesh cling to the song. You gotta get into it so deep, salt crystallizes on eyelashes. The need gotta be so deep you can bump up ghosts and not feel broken. Till you're no more than a half ounce of gold and painful brightness, you gotta get into it, blow that saxophone. So deep all the sex and dope in this world can erase your need to howl against the sky. The need gotta be so deep you just can't wiggle your hips and rise up out of it. Chaos in the cosmos, more than man in the pepper pot. You got to get hooked into every hungry groove. So deep the bomb, locked in rust, opens like a fist. Into it so deep, rhythm is pre-memory. The need got to be basic animal need to see and know the terror. We are made of honey, because if you want to dance this boogie, be ready to let the devil use your head for a drum. I was just thinking about all the rhythms we sort of have walking around with us in our footsteps. Slam dunk and hook. Fast breaks, the layups, with Mercury's insignia on our sneakers. We outmaneuvered the footwork of bad angels. Nothing but a hot swish of soap. 10 feet out, in the roundhouse labyrinth our bodies created, we could almost last forever, poised in midair like storybook sea monsters. A high note hung there a lone second off the rim. We had corkscrew up and dunked balls, exploded the skull cap of hope and good intention. Lanky, all hands and feet sprung rhythm. We were metaphysical when girls cheered on the sidelines, tangled up in the falling. Muscles were a bright motor, double flashing to the metal hoop nailed to our oak. When Sonny Boy's mama died, he played nonstop all day so hard, our backboard splintered, glistened with sweat. It rolled the ball off our fingertips. Trouble was there, slapping a blackjack against an open palm, dribble, drive to the inside, and glide like a sparrowhawk. Layups, fast breaks, we had moves we didn't know we had. Our bodies spawned on swivels of bone and faith through his lyrics slip knot of joy. And we knew we were beautiful and dangerous. Okay. I think I'm going to read from, I should say, the In Progress collection. The title is The Emperor of Water Clocks. Islands. An island is one great eye gazing out, a beckoning lighthouse, searchlight, a wishbone compass, or counterweight to the stars. When it comes to outlook and point of view, a figure stands on a rocky ledge, peering out towards an archipelago of glass on the mainland. A seagull's wings touching the tip of a high wave out to where the brain may stumble. But when a mind climbs down from its high, craggy lookout, we know it is truly a stubborn thing and has to leaf through pages of dust and light through pre-memory and folklore. Remembering Thars roared down there till they pushed up through the seafloor and plumes of ash covered the dead, shaking the weight worlds away, and silence filled up with centuries of waiting. Sea urchin, turtle, and crab came with earthly know-how, and one bird arrived with a sprig in its beak before everything clouded with cries, a millennium of small deaths, now topsoil and seasons of blossoms and a single seed. Light edged along salt-crusted stones, across a cataract of blue water, and lost sailors' parrots spoke of sirens, the last words of men buried at sea. Someone could stand here contemplating the future, leafing through pages of St. Augustine or the prophecies of fishermen, translating spur and folly down to taproot. The dreamy-eyed boy still in the man, the girl in the woman. A sunny forecast behind today, but tomorrow's beyond words. To behold a body of water is to know pig iron and mother wet. Whoever this figure is, he will soon return to dancing through the aroma of dagger's log, ginger lily, bougainvillea, between chants and strings struck till gourds rally the healing ear, and the church steeplebirds fly sweet darkness home. Whoever this friend or lover is, he intones redemptive harmonies. To lie down in remembrance is to know each of us is a prodigal son or daughter looking out beyond land and sky, the chemical and metaphysical beyond falling and turning water wheels in the colossal brain of damnable gods, a eureka held up to the sun's blinding eye, born to gaze into far. At the conquering frontiers, the mind comes back to rest, stretching out over the white sand. That particular poem is dedicated to Derek Walcott. Skulking across snow. The shadow knows, okay, but what is this? The travels tell curve like a question mark, a tribe on her back. Snow falls among the headstones. The fat flakes curtain 3 worlds. In Southern folklore, they exhume the old world before skulking out to a new frontier of city lights. They live by playing dead. Bounty of lunacy, bounty of what it seems in other extremes. No, I'm not talking about lines stolen into a rock and roll song. No arch sentimentalist. I'm not speaking of moonlight or a pale girl of wanderlust in the desert. But that's not a bad guess. I'm lost in your obscure imagination. Speaking of the dead, you know, Yeats also knew a little something about the occult. Sleepwalking is another story. Yes, the blank space says, wake up, knucklehead, and listen to this. You might be getting on to something here. If I had different skin, would you read me differently? Would you see something in the snow that isn't in the snow, something approaching genius? Would you press your nude body against the pages to try reading something into the life of the speaker? Would you nibble at the edges of my nightmares and wake with the taste of death in your mouth? Or would you open your eyes lost in a field of hyacinth? Well, on a night like this, snow has fallen into my dreams. Lithium of horse could be a clue, but not necessarily so. Or think of the 2 men aiming their dueling pistols, the years of silence between them. Alexander Pushkin falling into the January whiteness of history. Fortress. I'll just read a few last poems. Fortress. Now I began with these 2 hands, raised before me as blessing and weapon. Blackbirds in furious flight and instruments of touch and consolation. This sign means stop. And this one, of course, means come forth, friend. I draw a circle in the red iron clay around my feet. There's no spirit where no evil spirit dares to find me. One's hands held at this angle over a boy's head or a roof over a sanctuary. I am a greenhorn in my fortress in the woods, with my right eye pressed to a knothole. I can see a buzz in the persimmon tree, its ripe letting go, a tiny white cross in each seed. The girl's fiery jump rope strikes the ground. I see the back door of that house close to the slow creek, where a drunken, angry man stumbles across the threshold every Friday. I see forgiveness, unbearable twilight, and these 2 big hands know too much about nail and hammer, plank, and uneasy sky. Hewn, stoned, and mortar is another world, and sometimes a tall gate comes first. Then huge wooden barrels of grain, flour, salt meat, and quicklime before 28 crossbows and 4 towers. I used to construct fortresses in the woods when I was about 10. Okay. Timbuktu. I sing an elegy for the city of 333 saints, for every crumbling mosque and minaret, for the libraries standing for centuries against dust storms, for the nomads herding trees of life across the desert, along trails Campbell's once hauled salt to rafts woven on the river Niger. Before the empire of Songhai fell, the griots speak of an epic memory of starlight and sand. But now, mercenaries kidnap, run drugs, and killed in bold daylight. Blood money brought them into Libya, and more blood money took them home, brandishing stolen guns and grenades. When Lord Byron intones in Don Juan, where geography finds no one to oblige her, I hear my name. No one stands up to prophecies the other side of limbo against the modern, as a metallic eye drones overhead. Medieval clouds may promise safe passes or escape routes out of Mali, but the God-fearing cannot remember the faces of death after kicking in all the drums. Okay, recite the last poem. Ode to the Maggot. Breath of the blowfly and Godhead, you work magic over battlefields and slabs of bad pork and flop houses. Yes, you go to the root of all things. You are sound and mathematical. Jesus Christ, you're merciless with the truth. Ontological and lustrous, you cast spells on beggars and kings. Behind the stone door is Caesar's tomb, a split trench in a field of ragweed. No decree or creed can outlaw you as you take every living thing apart. Little master of earth, no one gets to heaven without going through you first. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yusef, for that spectacular reading. On your right, on the patio, Yusef has graciously agreed to sign books. There's a selection of 6 or 7 books out there, so please find a book and ask Yusef to sign it for you. Thank you all for coming.